Hi, this is James Eng, and I got Mark Allen with GREA here, and we got a "What's the Deal" for you. So we're dusting off it's been a while since I've been on the "What's the Deal" series, but wanted to bring it back and talk through a new deal. So, Mark, thanks for jumping on, and maybe to kick it off, give people a little bit of your background, and then let's talk about the market a little bit of what you're seeing out there, and then we'll get into these two deals.
Yeah. So it's not that there hasn't been deals out there. I just bugged James to, hey, let's do a what's the deal for this because I haven't seen one in a while. But I'm Mark Allen with GREA. GREA is a multifamily investment sales specialized company. Nationwide, we've got 12 offices, primarily central to the East Coast. And this year, we're focused on trying to add to the West Coast because we've got one Portland office that feels like they're out on an island out there. So that's what we do. And here in Dallas, we primarily are workforce housing focused. So most of our transactions are B and C class, just similar to these two properties here, Aspire and Lana. And I think last year we did somewhere around 38 transactions, about half of what we did the year prior. And our average deal size tends to be in the upper teens. I think that dipped down to about 9 million last year. Obviously, prices have adjusted, but I think at least for us, what we saw the smaller deals, sub 200 unit properties, maybe a little more stable than some of the larger deals.
All right. So let's jump in so you got two deals in Denton. Maybe give a little background on sort of ownership and then location of these two deals.
Yeah, so in the past 40 years, there's been three owners at this property. So, I mean, you can kind of tell sometimes when a property trades hands in the last dozen years, 5 times, that it's probably not an easy property to operate, and it's a bit of a headache. These properties are super clean. They're not headache properties. There's very little delinquency. They're beautiful properties in a beautiful area. They're situated in central Denton, so just north of Texas Women's University and north of the square, which is downtown Denton. And if you don't know Denton, most of the growth has been along the I-35 corridor. James has the map up here. So along I-35, you've got the Razor Ranch development on the west side. You've got UNT also just off I-35. You've got a manufacturing supply chain and distribution industrial park there, right where 35 West and 35 East converge on the left-hand side of I-35 or the west side. And so these properties are really just situated really central. There's a lot of development on the east side of Denton right now, just because household median income is just shy of 80,000. So it's in an opportunity zone. It's not economically depressed. I think they just wanted a lot more growth on the east side of Denton, just given naturally a lot of the development has been along that main interstate through Texas and up through the Midwest.
All right. And then all right, let's jump into this
Real
first
quick,
deal.
just
Oh, go ahead.
James, take a step back.
Yeah.
I mean, that map up in the corner, you can see Denton. I call it the point of the DFW triangle. So you got Dallas down there in the bottom right, and Fort Worth on the bottom left, and Denton is where the two highways converge. So it's point of the DFW triangle. It's probably, I mean, depends on traffic. It would take you, 45 minutes to get to Dallas or so, maybe a little bit longer than that,
Yeah,
50
45.
minutes.
Yeah, 45 to an hour, just depending on what time of day it is and how fast you're driving along I-35. But
Yeah,
I-35 is, 3 or 4 lanes on each side, all the way pretty much between Dallas and Denton and Fort Worth.
yeah.
And then you have Alliance up here. And I mean, there's a ton of growth going up that direction. I mean, I think from Dallas up to Denton, it's pretty much, I don't know if there's any gaps in terms of open land right now or anymore. So there
Yeah.
used to be. So
Yeah, then you
um,
see the airport there. You're 30 minutes away from DFW Airport, so not too far away.
and I mean, I know this is downtown Dallas. I mean, Frisco is sort of like right here, maybe. And so, I mean, Frisco is sort of in this section. So a lot of times people are going from Frisco just along 380.
Yeah,
And instead of coming down to 35 or 121 to 35 and then going back up, 380 now, I don't know. I think you maybe had a map in there in one of the slides in the OM, but 380 now pretty much connects Denton all the way down to Frisco. And
Yeah.
so that whole area is just everything's just converging in that area.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and
but
Denton too, not to keep harping on it, but there's 60,000 plus students between the two universities, but like Frisco is in Denton County. So you have the Denton County, courthouse, ISD, which is on the east side of Denton. So you've got a lot of public jobs. And so Denton is known to be more of a stable economy, pretty steady Eddie market, throughout the years. So.
okay. All right. So we've got two properties, and I broke it up into just two separate ones just to keep it easy, to
Yeah.
keep them straight. So let's start with Aspire and sort of go through that one first, and then we'll get into the Lana property.
Yeah, so the properties are offered individually or as a portfolio. They're about a 3-minute drive away from each other, so they're right around the corner. Right now they're operated together. You've got leasing agents at both properties, you've got maintenance staff at both properties, and then the manager is usually back and forth. Like morning, she'll start at Aspire, and then maybe in the afternoon she's at Lana or vice versa. So Aspire was built in 1970. It's going to be more spread out than Lana. It was built in 1970. It's got 132 units. It's got a standalone clubhouse and leasing office that's 2 stories. It does have room for a fitness center and a business center. The fitness center right now, or the old fitness center, is basically a storage area. The current owner didn't renovate that and bring it up online, so that is a value add opportunity. Another big difference from Aspire to Lana is that Aspire has covered parking spaces, which you can see there in the picture. They both are individually metered, individual HVACs. Aspire does have a central boiler system. I believe there's one boiler. It's copper wiring, so not aluminum and pigtail. And it's got, it has a lot of amenities or potential for amenities, such as they've got 2 backyard spaces, which they don't charge for. You can add additional backyard spaces. They've got tennis and pickleball courts, grilling station, obviously swimming pool, which you can see here. There's one pool on site. So there's a lot of things I like about this property.
All right. So 132 units, 2-story. All right, so let's talk about the unit mix and then what a potentially new buyer, maybe talk about I didn't know if what the seller's done or the last couple owners have done, and then sort of what's left to do for a new buyer.
Yeah. So Aspire has a higher concentration of 1-bedrooms. 1-bedrooms are obviously going to be more in demand in certain areas. I think we see more in the urban cores, and then obviously Denton 1-bedrooms are in very high demand. So just given the younger demographic. So I think there's 78% 1-bedrooms here versus the remaining are 2-bedroom, 2-bath. The 2-bedroom, 2-bath are very large with 960 average size square feet. They are on one side of the property, and many of them have fireplaces. So the current ownership has renovated about, I think it's right about 35% of the property, plus or minus. So there's 77 more units to upgrade there, which you can see. And on renovations, the current ownership has been adding washer and dryer connections, not providing in-unit appliances. So that is an opportunity. But on those renovations, they're adding washer dryer connections, and then some of their premium level renovations, which include some new cabinet fronts, new appliances, backsplash, typical premium level upgrade. And they're getting about $100 rental premium there. So there's still quite a bit of meat on the bone, given, only a handful have been renovated.
Okay, so that's just sort of interior upgrades as they turn.
Yeah.
Spend about 6,500 and sort of get those units up to renovated status. Okay.
Yeah.
Any of the other sort of big ticket value add items here?
Yeah, I mean, just all in all, there's virtually no deferred maintenance at both properties. They're very well maintained over the years. So I think that's where the previous ownership focused more on just keeping up with the properties versus the interior rehabs. So there's not a whole lot of money that needs to go in outside of maybe some of the community amenities, upgrading some of the spaces or interior rehabs. As far as demand pricing, I think that's a big opportunity in this area. You see some of the competitors do this. All of these value creation highlights here, we're not just throwing them against the wall. We can actually point to the competitors and let you know which ones are offering this. Like, for example, demand pricing. This property is right next to Coronado North, and Coronado North charges $20 for the downstairs units. So we thought $15. I mean, that's easy to implement. There's no cost. And some of the competitors are already doing that. And then, package lockers, backyard spaces. I told you there's already 2, but we counted another 11 that you could add backyard spaces. Valet trash service is common, and then also smart home technology. And
And then
generally,
yeah.
these value add highlights are going to be similar across both properties.
And then the package lockers, they don't have any, they just deliver it to the unit now or just put it in front of the door?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
And
you
and
think,
there's plenty of space, whether you wanted to. I mean, the clubhouse is really large, 2 stories. So there's plenty of space within the clubhouse if you wanted to add the package lockers, or obviously, well, I guess residents would need access. Or you could also do it right outside of the building. There's space for that. So
right,
I think that's pretty common occurrence. I'd qualify these as Class B properties, just given the amenity set and some of the components.
right. Okay.
So like, that's a younger demographic. They're tech forward. They're using Amazon a lot. You've got a lot of folks that work in software and technology and things like that. So I think some of these would go a long way.
Okay. All right. So we've
Yep.
got interior upgrades, some of the pricing changes, and then package lockers, backyards, valet trash, and then smart home. Anything on the smart home piece you're thinking? Is that just on top of just the upgrade?
Uh, yeah, I mean, again, some of the properties in the area provide this. We've got some estimates for about $615 per unit. So assuming around a $40 a month premium, it's about a 78% ROI.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So if you want to do a full upgrade, you might spend, five, six, $7,000. And then if you just want to do a lighter upgrade, you could do the smart home tech.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So digging into just sort of your current versus pro forma, you said is the occupancy around 90% right now? What's the occupancy on Aspire?
Yeah, but both are currently 90 and 92% physically occupied.
Okay.
They've got really good leasing momentum right now, as we're seeing, across the market. Specifically, I mean, the current ownership has hired 2 really strong leasing agents, moved one from another property, and they're in competition to see who can outperform the other. But yeah, they both have a lot of demand. I think March collections will be higher than February. So it's going to help with our debt sizing here going in. But generally, we're just burning off loss to lease. We're adding some of those other income items. I think there's some room to run. If you look at some of the comp set, there's some room to increase the 2-bedroom rents specifically. I don't think there's as much room to move on the 1-bedroom rents. So that's going to be on the income side, and we're driving to the sub-market average vacancy right now, which again, I mean, is going to fluctuate. Today is at about 7% on average. That's physical vacancy.
Right.
And, we're coming out of the winter months, so I think it's maybe a little bit weaker than what it'll be in the summer. But, we're just saying generally a 7% physical vacancy with 2% bad debt. And then generally we're adjusting taxes to 80% of purchase price. We got insurance quotes, which we provided in the diligence room. And other than that, I mean, generally, pretty market expenses.
Okay. And then so driving sort of the economic vacancy from, let's say, 15 to 7, and then also the other income from about, I guess, 188,000 to 315, and that's driven by sort of the package lockers and the backyards and the valet trash. Is that?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And generally, like, through, I think, the holidays, November, December, January, February, I mean, they dip down to mid 80s occupancy. So that's where that, I'm underwriting here on the T1, which is going to be best because we've got a trend coming out of the winter months.
Right.
And we'll continue to trend up, but that's where that 15% is.
Okay. All right. And then the whisper price on Aspire. So it's 132 units. Yeah, 132 units.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a whisper on that?
Yeah, so we're guiding 14.5, which is 110,000 a unit. This is T1 annualized income, T12 expenses at about a 6.4 cap. And James, if you want to talk through the financing, I mean, generally it's going to be probably expense adjusted, depending on how you operate, to somewhere right around that high 5 range, somewhere in there, with upside. And so I think we're sizing kind of 65 to 70% LTV, depending on the term.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people that we're working with right now, they're looking, especially on a deal this size, to go Fannie Freddie. Rates are anywhere, depending if you do a 5 or 7 or 10-year loan, anywhere from 5.75 to 6, based on when you lock and sort of where 10-year Treasury is at, and that seems to be right around 9.5 to 10 million on this deal. So yeah, right around 65 to 70%, and we're seeing anywhere from 3 years IO all the way up to just sort of full term IO on a lot of these deals. And then if someone did want to do bridge, that is an option as well, especially since this is a little bit larger deal. I mean, you're probably going to be closer to 10.8 million. We just assumed about 650,000 in rehab on this deal. But you probably would need to buy a rate cap to keep the rate under this 8.5 and 9, as if you had no rate cap. So that's what we looked at on Aspire. Any additional comments on Aspire before we jump into Lana?
No, I know we're not really looking at, I don't know how often you look at Freddie floaters, but I think cap costs obviously are going to come way down. Hopefully that first cut is in June, but we'll see. But
Everybody's waiting, Mark. Everybody's waiting.
May make a lot of sense to do.
Yeah, maybe
I'll send floater on this paper.
Yeah, I'll send Jerome Powell maybe this webinar after and see if he wants to move that along for us. But all right, so that was Aspire. So about 110 a door. Let's go to Lana and talk about this one, and then we'll get into the debt as well.
Yeah, so Lana is 116 units, built in 1981. Again, right around the corner, 3-minute drive, operated as one. Some of the big differences: it does have a pet park. It does have a few more grilling stations. You can see there in the bottom right corner photo. Obviously, it does have a pool as well, similar to Aspire. But garden style property, but a little more dense, not as spread out as Aspire is. It is individually metered, individual HVAC, pitch roofs. And by the way, all the roofs were replaced in both properties in 2015. So not a lot of age on them. This property actually has a central boiler that is covering 5 properties. And then at some point in the past, the owner, one of the previous owners, converted 4 of the buildings to individual hot water. So it's a mix of both. Copper, electrical wiring as well. So I think that's pretty it for this 2-story garden style deal. You see the pet park there. That'd be another difference between the 2 properties. Aspire doesn't have a pet park.
And I could not tell on Aspire, is the roof pitched or flat? It looks pitched back over here. On Aspire?
That is actually that's the adjacent property.
Okay.
So it's a mix. It's a mix of the way it's structured. It's pitched and flat.
Okay. So a lot of people, if they're moving into the 80s, it seems like all the system components are pretty similar. Besides the age. Any other differences between the 70s and 80s vintage here? Between the 2 properties, or?
Frankly, I don't know if there's. I didn't get my my snake out or my store scope to scope the lines there, so I don't know if they're PVC or not.
Okay.
But I did see PVC cleanouts, and the seller wasn't sure. But generally, that's probably one of the big differences. I mean, some 80s vintage properties do have cast iron sewer lines. Right. Some have PVC. I think probably most have PVC. Okay. But that's going to be a big difference probably between the two.
Between the two. Okay. All right. And then maybe get into the unit mix and some of the value add pieces.
Yeah. So same thing. I mean, generally, actually, a little bit larger units here, pretty average, right around 750 weighted average square feet. You've got a good mix of 1s and 2s here, with the 1 1s and the 2 1s. And generally, I think there's a little bit more room to run on some of the larger one bedrooms as far as just kind of market supported comps there on the pro forma rents, and then also some of the two bedrooms as well. And like I said, on the value creation, pretty much it's the same type of business plan. There's quite a few units that still need to be renovated here at Lana versus Spire. So there's 86 still more to do. And which I think, is somewhere in the 20% range as far as what they've completed. And it's going to
Okay.
be the same demand pricing, package lockers. There's the way it's structured, there's not actual patios on this property, but there is the ability to add some of these side yards to give people like, storage or just kind of a private space.
And then I didn't put the slide in here, but in terms of rent comps for these properties, what's maybe the top one or two?
Coronado Villas, Coronado North. I mean, those are going to be the closest and probably the top performing, right there. Coronado North has very long-term ownership, but still they've done some really nice renovations and are kind of leading the market. It's a 1980, I think it's 80 or 81 vintage there. So they're probably the most comparable as far as like unit type, and they're like literally right next to the property. So I'm not stretching, 2.5 miles out to get comps.
Right. All right. Okay. And in terms of actual versus pro forma, is a similar story on
Yeah,
vacancy here, going from about 16 to 7, and then the other income piece.
yeah. Yeah, I think back in February, they were 83, 84% occupied here. Today, over 92%, probably pre-leased, to the mid 90s. I'll get an update on that this week when I'm out there, but generally same thing, driving to just average vacancy, physical vacancy, 2% bad debt, burning off loss to lease, adding in some of those other income ideas that we had there, and adjusting for taxes and insurance.
Okay. The second time through, I think I'm getting the story now. So that's
Yeah.
why we did it that way. Okay, so whisper price on this one is 12.5, is that right?
12.5, yeah. It's T1, T12, 6 cap, and of course, there's still a lot of upside. And generally size into about the same level, that 65 to 70% LTV with fixed rate debt.
Okay. Yeah, we sized it on Fannie and Freddie same way. 575 to 6 on both, and then bridge similar. So let's see. Yeah, the bridge you can get a little bit more leverage. I put 580 on rehab for this one, but most people are leaning more towards Fannie Freddie and just raising that additional equity for the rehab, and getting the lower rate. And
Yeah.
then have you set a call for offers date yet for this one?
Yeah, Thursday, April 18th.
Okay.
So we just came to market, I guess generally 4 business days ago. So mid last week. And again, they're offered individually or as a portfolio. I think it would make a lot of sense to add them both to the portfolio. Again, I mean, I think they're, you walk them, they show really well. They're beautiful properties. And, you look at we provided AR reports, there's very little delinquency. So all in all, just kind of good, clean properties that will make great for kind of a stable, light value add play.
All right. Any other final comments, words of wisdom out there besides, besides the pickleball tournament coming up? Any other final words of wisdom for those investors out there?
Yeah, come out to the pickleball tournament. GREA will have a team. Look forward to seeing everyone out there. Yeah, contact me, mark.allen@grea.com, or anyone else on our team here in Dallas to set up a tour. We're doing tours, ideally Tuesday through Thursday, but we'll accommodate as needed. But James, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. And we'll have to get you out there at a property tour.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thanks.